Hello everyone. I'm Emma, and today we're going to explore critical analysis language.
Hi everyone, I'm Jake, and I'm excited to dive into this topic with you.
So, let's start with something basic. Why do you think it's important to scrutinize information?
Well, Emma, it's critical to scrutinize information because not everything we see is true.
Exactly. Scrutinizing helps us avoid falling for false claims. We should always question things.
Right, and sometimes we need to challenge assumptions we take for granted.
Yes, challenging assumptions can reveal deeper insights, don't you think?
Absolutely, but what about the underlying premise of an argument?
That's a great point. The underlying premise often shapes the conclusion.
If we don't scrutinize it, we might accept faulty reasoning without realizing.
Which brings us to logical fallacies. They can trick us if we're not careful.
Yes, a logical fallacy is when there's a flaw in reasoning, right?
Exactly, Jake. Identifying them is crucial to clear thinking.
And sometimes, what seems obvious can be counterintuitive.
Good observation. Just because something feels right doesn't mean it's correct.
Absolutely. So, what should we focus on today?
We're going to have a couple of dialogues to practice these concepts in context.
Sounds great. I can't wait.
Let's jump into our first dialogue. Ready?
Let's go.
So, Jake, I read an article that claims social media makes people lonelier.
That's an interesting premise. What do you think?
I think we should scrutinize the evidence presented in the article.
Agreed. Sometimes, data can be misinterpreted, leading to a logical fallacy.
Exactly. We need to challenge assumptions that social media is solely negative.
Right, that would be too simplistic. There might be benefits we overlook.
Absolutely. Just because something seems to be a cause doesn't mean it is the only cause.
I see your point. It's counterintuitive to think that social connections can also be enhanced online.
Exactly. There's a lot to consider when analyzing such a complex issue.
And we should examine the underlying premise of the article thoroughly.
Yes. What assumptions does the author make?
Let's find out. If they assume loneliness is purely a result of social media,
then they're oversimplifying the issue.
Right. Let's look for any logical fallacies in their argument.
Great idea. We need to identify if they make unwarranted conclusions.
Sometimes the data can mislead us if we don't scrutinize it properly.
Exactly. Critical thinking is essential in this information age.
Let's recap. We discussed scrutinizing the article and challenging its assumptions.
And we also highlighted the importance of identifying logical fallacies.
That was fun. Shall we move on to the next dialogue?
Absolutely. In this next dialogue, we'll explore a different topic using the same principles.
What topic are we focusing on now?
We'll discuss the debate about climate change.
Oh, that's a hot topic. Many people have different opinions on it.
Exactly. It's essential to scrutinize the arguments on both sides.
In fact, some people challenge the underlying premise that climate change is man-made.
Right. And while they have their reasons, we must examine their evidence closely.
It can be easy to fall into logical fallacies with emotional arguments.
Exactly. Emotional responses can cloud judgment.
So, it's critical that we take a step back and scrutinize claims.
Yes. Sometimes, the truth can be counterintuitive.
Right. Many feel renewable energy is a great solution, but it's not without challenges.
Exactly. There are many layers to this discussion.
And challenging assumptions can lead to new ideas.
Yes, and that's where critical thinking really shines.
So, do you think some solutions may actually create new problems?
That's quite possible. Scrutinizing potential solutions is key.
And if we don't consider all angles, we risk falling for logical fallacies.
Exactly. Let's summarize what we discussed in this dialogue.
We talked about the debate on climate change and the importance of scrutinizing both sides.
And we stressed the need to challenge underlying premises in discussions.
That was enlightening. Now, what about vocabulary?
Great idea. Let's go over our vocabulary words.
Okay, what's our first word?
The first word is scrutinize.
How do we use it in a sentence?
You could say, it's essential to scrutinize your sources before believing them.
Got it. Another example?
We must scrutinize the data to find any inaccuracies.
One more?
To make informed decisions, we need to scrutinize our options carefully.
Nice. What's next?
Our next word is challenge assumptions.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. To understand different perspectives, we must challenge assumptions about others.
That's useful. Another?
She likes to challenge assumptions in her discussions to encourage deeper thinking.
Awesome. One last example?
It's important to challenge assumptions that may not hold true.
Perfect. What's next?
Next, we have underlying premise.
How do we use that?
The underlying premise of the study was that education improves job prospects.
Interesting. Another?
We need to examine the underlying premise of any argument critically.
One more, please?
Her theory rests on the underlying premise of fairness in the workplace.
Nice. What's the next word?
The next word is logical fallacy.
Can you give me an example?
That argument presents a clear logical fallacy that discredits it.
Another?
Identifying logical fallacies can strengthen your arguments significantly.
One more?
It's essential to avoid logical fallacies in persuasive writing.
Great. What's our last word?
Our last word is counterintuitive.
Can we have an example?
His decision was counterintuitive, but it led to unexpected success.
Another example?
It seems counterintuitive to spend money to save money, but it can work.
One more?
The counterintuitive solution surprised everyone involved.
Excellent. What's next?
Now, let's review what we learned today with some practice questions.
Sounds good. What's the first question?
1. Why is it important to scrutinize arguments?
To find out if they're true or not, right?
Exactly. Next question.
2. What does it mean to challenge assumptions?
It means to question what we take for granted.
3. Can you give an example of a logical fallacy?
Sure. A common one is the straw man fallacy.
4. How can something be counterintuitive?
It might go against common sense.
5. Why should we examine the underlying premise of arguments?
To ensure the argument is built on solid ground.
That was informative. What's our next lesson about?
Next time, we'll discuss persuasive language and how to influence opinions.
I can't wait. See you next time.
See you, everyone. Remember to keep scrutinizing.